Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
There's not, really? It is to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna
the
do
boys.
what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
There's not, really? It is to me. Right. Idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, you know. It's real tough.
But I have to put her.
What's
on the
going on?
side and worry about the boys.
Good to see you.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my
Welcome to
kids.
the lab.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
If you are new,
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
if you're new, please hit that like button, subscribe if you would.
It is to me.
Also,
But I have to put her.
thank you to the TIR family for coming over. I know you guys travel well.
But I have to.
Got a great show for you tonight with our favorite guest, pretty much our only
There
guest
is
ever.
no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
You know him. We know him
But I have to put her.
as the McDonough-nator,
but I have to
aka
put her
Chris McDonough
on
or
the
Detective
side and worry
McDonough
about the boys.
from the interview room. Chris, good to see you. How are you?
Josh, how are you, buddy? And
I'm
Lab
great.
Rats? What an exciting opportunity to come over and visit with you.
I appreciate
and-
that. I appreciate you doing that.
Of course, you ask, I'm here for you. Anything, and it's defective, not detective. It's defective.
Yeah, yeah. Sneaking.
You look good.
What is this I hear about you sneaking under police tape and stuff? I mean, is that a thing? I mean, it's just I could just see you. I could just see you out there in the snow.
Absolutely. And I take Karen with me and Buddy so that we can all randomly get hooked up together.
Well, you know, one time I was following an emergency vehicle in a safety corridor, and I was just kind of following behind them, you know, because they were going fast, and I wanted to get to where I was going fast, and they actually pulled me over. From the police officer that was in front of me pulled me over. Gets on the side, pulls me over, gets out, and he says, "Where do you think you're going?" And I said, "Scene of the crime. Let's go." $500 ticket. So on
Sign
that,
here.
you know, yeah, that was man, I was probably 23. That was a terrible idea. But so I know what you mean, you know, by, you know, I was trying to help. I was trying to help, but they didn't need my help. They didn't want my help, and you know,
I
and
stopped
didn't
the
put it-
guy one night and I said, "Do you know why I stopped you?" He goes, "No, sir." I said, "Well, you were speeding." He goes, "Speeding?" He says, "I was looking at my speed thermometer." And I said, "No." And I said to him, I said, "Must have said hot. I'll be right back." So
Yeah,
I get where you're going, brother.
yeah.
get where you're
Have you ever
going.
had to pull somebody over when they were behind you?
You know what? I don't recall. I'm sure we probably you don't ever pass you know, the PD, the popo,
Yeah.
you know, especially on a city street, you know, try
Right.
not to pass them if you can.
I
That's a dead giveaway.
I I
And
never.
oh, by the way, which reminds me, on the body camera video, or no, or I mean the auto video of BK driving on the freeway, he passes the cop. Did you see that
No,
on
I
the
didn't
right?
see
And I thought,
that.
and this,
I heard he
now
did.
that we're talking about it, it just reminded me. Remember, you can play that video if you have it, and he goes right by him, and I'm thinking, yeah, that was
Why
a
would you?
tactical error. That's going to leave a
Well,
mark.
I think they were going to pull him over anyway.
Yeah, that little whisper stop, I think, even though people are saying, no, that didn't happen. Who knows? But,
Is that one of those? And
he's a
I don't want to.
coordinator.
I don't want to reveal trade secrets or anything, but is that like something that they wouldn't even, if they did it, they probably wouldn't admit to it. I
Well,
mean,
you do in court if you're asked, did you have that individual stop? Well, if there was probable cause to stop him, yeah, I asked the patrol guys to stop him. We've done a lot of that.
No, yeah. Oh, well, see, there you go. Yeah, he's not, when we're talking about Koberger, he's not really the sharpest tool in the shed, especially when I first heard about this case and started reading, about him and all this information coming out. And I'm like, man, this guy's going to be slick, and then the more that I thought about it, and, you and I had this conversation off the air before, and I just kind of came to the conclusion that, yeah, he's really good at probably homework and punctuation and turning in his papers and studying, because guys like that, they hyper focus on stuff. They become obsessed, and whatever they put their attention into, they can succeed at because of the hyper focus. But when that insane whatever inside, call it a demon, call it whatever you want, the insanity takes over. Nobody's smart. Nobody is thought out, and even guys like Bundy was actually really smart.
Yep.
But I also think that if Bundy was here, in today's world, that probably would have been caught sooner because of advancements in
Technology.
correct. Yeah. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think well, if we think about what the fuel was for him, he didn't have a lot of access to fuel, and which drove his, his crimes and his fantasies. So
Right.
today he would have 10 times as much fuel, which would make him 10 times more dangerous. But also the other side of the crime, the other side of the candle is, technology has advanced to the place where, today is a good example on that search warrant where they're getting dog hair. At least they're looking for it.
Yeah, and we've talked about dog hair in a few other cases before, and that would put him directly in the house. The sheath to me already puts him in the house with the single profile DNA or whatever, single person profile, and so I think that my whole thought is, because they're going through, they have probably went through that car with a fine tooth comb, and if they find anything that relates to the victim's DNA of any kind, I mean, I can't see a way where he wouldn't want to take a plea deal. Now, that's the thought of a sort of a sane person, but I think he thinks he's smarter than everybody, and that he can paint this Mona Lisa and beat the system. I mean, do you ever get that sense from him?
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to have the defense is going to have quite a handful with him, his defense team, because, he is just that guy who wants to be, he wants to be that guy, right? I mean, everybody knows in every company, it's like, don't be that guy, but he's that guy. and it's going to be his detriment. I'm going to grab something while you're thinking.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it is going to be his detriment. Plus just the overall DNA evidence and so you know you're going to have physical evidence here, and you're going to have um, circumstantial evidence, and you're going to wrap it all up into a nice little bow. And what they're going to do is attack the credibility of the investigation and the investigators and so on and so forth. And it's gonna just, people are like, well, DNA this, DNA that. I have seen a case personally, watched it happen, where DNA, star mix, by the way, was the DNA was not allowed because the judge, it was a bench trial, as they call it, or where the judge is the one that does
Makes the decision.
makes the decision. It was a brilliant move by the defense, and he didn't let some DNA in because they said that they didn't trust the way that the DNA was handled, right? And the man was acquitted because of it. When the DNA, it said the probability was, it was like 1 in 36 million that it wasn't his, and he lived in a town of probably, I don't know, 4 or 5,000, or sorry, like 40 or 50,000, and you would take those odds any day if you were buying a lottery ticket. But so there are things that they're going to attack. Um, he knows he I mean he has a some sort of plan, but that doesn't mean it's going to work. But it was so interesting what you talked about on Sunday, the DoorDash stuff. I had never even considered. I mean, that's why you do what you do. I'd never even considered it, and now I'm thinking, was that? I mean, what are the odds, Chris, that a DoorDash is coming right around the same time as him, and he's circling the block, and if for nothing else, to create reasonable doubt. And that's
What
the
are
only
the odds? What are the odds that at 2:45 in the morning is the last moment you can call in an order, schedule it for any time you want? So let's hypothesize, schedule it for 4 for delivery. And at 02:47 you go off the grid. Your phone just goodbye and doesn't reappear till later. And then what are the odds that they follow that car, through pings up until, they get him coming in? And I don't know. He circled that block 3 separate times, and
yes,
then
yeah,
all of a sudden the DoorDash is delivered, and he's in the environment within a couple of minutes. I don't know. Maybe it is a quinky dink. We'll see.
I mean, do you believe in those?
I believe in Santa Claus.
Why would you do that? That was so.
My
It's funny
grandkid.
that you really, though. Like, if you're gonna spend the money, you really want some guy taking credit for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're throwing shade on people through the whole process, right? You know, um, there's again, the human condition. People will do anything, and it's never the way, you know, you look at it, right, correctly, and it's never the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's just remember the one thing that Jigsaw John mentioned, I shared with you. He asked me one question. He goes, "Are you teachable?" And I, being a young pup, thought I knew a lot. And here I was, sitting next to a guy that spent 44 years working murder. He went back to the Black Dahlia. It's one of LAPD's most famous cases. And there I am sitting with him at a California Homicide Investigators Association conference. And this is a couple of years before he passed away. And it was the only time I ever talked to him. We probably talked for a couple hours because, he took the time with me. And I said, yeah, I think I am. And he looked at me again. He says, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you teachable? And I said, yes, sir. I believe I am. He says, okay. And when you have that mind blow experience with somebody, that type of experience, you learn you don't know anything that you thought you did. And you have to carry that. I love all these guys, I mentioned it the other day. Greg and I we were laughing because we weren't laughing at the people. We were just laughing at the idea. Like, so I saw somebody overseas talk about, well, yeah, he left the sheath as a calling card. Really? It's an interesting theory, but highly unlikely. The guy went shopping at Walmart, as we now know, and Marshall's in his own town. That's his calling card.
So so leaving your DNA on the holder of the weapon is a calling card. You know what that reminds me of, because would be a ridiculously stupid thing to do, but it reminds me of it in Home Alone when the two robbers, when they would rob the house, Marv and Harry and Marv, and every house that they would rob, Marv would clog the sink with a rag and then turn the water on and flood the house, right? And at the very end, they said, "Oh yeah, thank you for your little calling card." He's all, "Now we know every flooded house that we come across is yours." And then, Harry was awfully mad at Marv for doing that. Told him he was sick, actually, and got him jammed up even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know why that came to mind. I just really like that movie.
I mean, even if you do a comparative analysis between him and Ted Bundy.
Between Marv and Ted Bundy?
No, BK. If you do, well, that him too. But
yeah,
if you just do an analysis of Ted Bundy's first four victims, each of them were separate. They were independent. And so that means there was 4 times the amount of work to avoid getting captured, involved, because you didn't have them all in the same house. And, if we think this guy is going to be some, brain surgeon serial killer on his way up, then, we're missing the fact that there's data out there, from the Columbia University with Dr. Picotto, who's one of the co-authors, as I mentioned, in the mass murder database. They keep this database. They've interviewed hundreds of these guys. And they came up with this database that has all this comparative analysis behavior and data that says, okay, this is probably what these guys are all going to look like. Not all of them. Of course, they all change in terms of, the dynamics of each individual personality, but the principle is the same. And we said from day one, this is a mass murderer. And you would see, he's going to be a male. He acted alone. He has an odd personality, difficult in establishing relationships. He lives a restricted mechanical existence. This was long before Kohlberger came to the table. And, he's a little peculiar, hot-headed. He can hold a grudge for a long time. And I'm just, going off of what, Gary was presenting. And we, collectively, all of us were talking about it off off screen here. And, he's less impulsive if he snapped. And if he didn't snap, then that means he had a little more, mechanical control over that evening. So what are we finding out? Well, we'll find out what kind of clothes he bought, what kind of pre-planning he got into. Apparently, they thought he bought gloves because they're looking for gloves. That whole list, right?
Didn't they find one glove in his house or something?
They found a single glove. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's the other one?
I have no idea. And I'm praying it's not the one I saw in the front yard. And you can't really tell. I couldn't really tell what it was. I mean, it could be cloth, it could be leather, it could be, whatever. Quite frankly, it was a glove though. We know that. And I'm hoping that it's not involved, to be honest with you.
Of course.
Right?
Totally.
Because
you don't want them to have missed that for that long. Correct.
Right. Exactly.
That would be
and exactly. So, but the point, going back to the point is this guy his personality was almost easily predicted based on the evidence that was presented itself. And that's where, when I stood behind the house there on the video that I did, and I stood back there and I said, this is a really interesting area. And, my experience kicked in with talking to many of these guys, not just hypothesizing, actual sit down. Hey, by the way, you're going to prison because this is where I'm putting you. You need off the street. I didn't go with somebody for interviews. I actually did them. And, sending those things downstream with these guys, I knew that day, okay, we're looking for probably somebody who is, not going to leave a calling card, but it's his first kill, and who's been on the path for quite some time, taking steps, both mentally and physically, preparing for the day of the kill. And I, now we look at what we got here, and I asked Greg. I said to Greg, Greg, what do you think about the what ifs? He goes, oh yeah. He says, this guy definitely is generally curious about what if and what it would feel like. Those were Greg's exact words. And I said, and when when this guy came to the surface, Korberger, okay, I'm going to call him Hamburger just to mess up his name on purpose.
I mean, I'm so tired of learning these stupid last long names.
That's how I first started thinking. Don't panic. That's right. Ask Karen. She did a little video about that.
No, I just watched that the other day. It was the funniest thing, man. The funniest part was like you were in Crocs too.
Yep. Yeah.
I have Crocs.
We stuck out like, a couple of city slickers. That's for sure. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. It was a great day though.
But in a way you kind of looked like Kevin Costner from Yellowstone too.
Yeah,
do you own a cowboy hat?
No. No.
That's got to happen.
I love cowboys though. There's some tough dudes, man. Those guys are some tough dudes, and I love them. I mean, they're like the real deal, Americana, man. They are the real deal.
Oh yeah.
Well, and plus, look where all like the special forces operators, a lot of those guys come from Middle America, and they're tougher than nails, man. I love them.
I love them. I got in a tussle with a cowboy in high school, and I lost. And because he was stacking hay, and I would play video games. He was very strong.
You weren't hugging trees? where you're from?
No, I do not know. No, I am the opposite of that. Matter of fact, I don't really like I like trees, but like I don't really like them that much. And
Yeah,
I'm
but do they like
certainly
you?
I don't know. I've never asked, but I've never hugged a tree. I've maybe climbed one or two when I was like 4. You know, trees they're not really my thing. We have a cherry blossom tree in the backyard, and it's like the bane of my existence because when it blossoms, it's pretty, and then everything falls off and gets stuck everywhere. And I'm literally spraying off cherry blossom flowers. So I don't think that tree likes me because I've cursed it to God before, and I've actually threatened to pour motor oil on it, but I never have. I'm just saying it's just
Yeah,
I want to destroy you, and then I go, but it's a living thing, so I'll just and I'm
yeah,
not going to
trees.
chop it down.
Mhm.
I would never chop a tree down. I'd have somebody chop a tree down, but I would never chop a tree down.
Mhm.
I don't even own an axe or a chainsaw. But the answer to your question is no. I don't know if trees like me. I think that they're fine, but I don't even know where we were going with that.
You know, we were going to you were hugging trees and your in your other life, looking for the moss on the north side. If you ever get lost, just remember, look for the moss on the north side, and you know you're headed north.
I have, uh,
Did you know that?
yeah, no, I didn't
Okay.
know that. No,
Yeah, there you go.
but also
Useless trivia.
like you said the other day, I wasn't dropped off at a river and told to go fishing, but I think that I should have been. That would have been fairly awesome, you know.
That's how
Um,
Ian did it. That's how I did it. I handed him a fishing pole, took him right to the river's edge. I said, "You're a man now. Go get life. Go get it."
did you did
He's a
you at
doctor.
all
My oldest son's a doctor now.
did you think about maybe kicking like just pushing him in a little?
No, didn't have
Okay.
to. I said, "Get out of the car. You're going fishing." And literally, we got out of the car. What mom was crying, and I
Right.
walked around. Here you go. Go fishing. You know,
I mean, that's pretty amazing, actually.
it
What a
was
great.
classic. It was classic. He played hockey in college, and he did really well, and he's successful to this day. You can only hold them for so long. You gotta let them go, and then you've got to guide them.
Right.
There's two ways of leadership with strings. I used to use this analogy always with my boys. Is I take a string and I would pull the string in front of them on the kitchen table, and they'd be like, "Oh, here comes Dad with another one of his lectures." And I'd say, "Okay, what am I doing?" He said, "Well, you're pulling the string." Okay. And then I'd push it and it would all crumble. I said, "What do I do now?" He said, "Well, you push the string." I said, "You just learned a little bit about leadership. If I pull, it'll follow. If I push, you're you're just you're nothing there. Nothing there. Leadership is about serving. Get out there and serve. Make it happen."
Yeah.
And they have. All my kids are successful. All of our kids are successful. Ryan was on that road as well. He was ranked number 3 in the country in ice hockey at the time, and he had a full life ahead of him. And then, of course, an accident occurs. That's it. And so it's the way life is. See, this kid here, this I saw one of your lab rats said she wants to call him Cowburger. I thought that's awesome. He's a vegan. We should call him Cowburger. That will drive him
Well,
crazy.
it's funny that you say that because I said, "What kind of a vegan has burger in their name and then goes
Yeah,
vegan?"
exactly.
He should be
Cowburger.
locked up specifically for that. Also, one of the other things that really, and I know that and I'm not making light of this situation at all because what he did, and I went through it on a video the other day, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you got this question, they're saying, "Well, could he have done that in 10 minutes. I'm like, he could have done that in 3 minutes. Maybe, I mean, if you know anything about blood flow and arteries and things like that, it's it's terrible what these kids went through. That, but on a very separate note, the fact that this, oh, I don't know, Don, what would you call him?
Idiot.
Okay, so the fact that this idiot asked his parents or his aunt and uncle for pots and pans that had never touched meat, and somebody goes, well, that's, Josh, that's actually very
Nothing.
common in the vegan community. And I'm like, the vegan community. Like, he wasn't a part. First of all, he wasn't a part of any community, but go do that yourself. Like, okay, if you want to do that, fine. But just like, and I'm guessing that this has been going on with him for a long time. That some of these online forums that he was posting on, where he talked about visual snow. I don't know if you read any of that kind of
I read
stuff.
it all.
Yeah, and it is your prototypical weird, for lack of a better term, it's just like the Elliot Rodgers manifestos. It's just like Nicholas Cruz. I'm an outcast. I don't belong here. Nobody loves me. I'm mean to my family, even though they love me, so on and so forth. And then my life sucks so bad that I have to hurt everybody else because I'm not accepted. And I want the world to know that I haven't been treated fairly. And by the way, not many of us have been treated fairly in life. Okay. Not most of us have experienced getting picked on at some point in our lives. And as terrible as that is, there is no excuse for anything that this man is accused of. And by the way, he is a man. He is a grown man, 28 years old. Dad flew across the country to come drive him back and ask people to be his friend. That's what you're dealing with. And by the way, I don't know anything about the parents, and I'm not, I don't have a bone to pick with them. I have nothing to say about them. You know what? I bet that they were loving parents, and what are you gonna, I mean, sometimes you can't change evil. You can't fix crazy as much as you want to try. But here's the problem I have with Dumberger is that he knew that he had major issues. He knew it. He was self-aware enough to know. And you know what? People get help. People ask for help. He knew it, because if those writings and I mean, it has his screen name on it, and I think it was actually the New York Post confirmed that those online forums were from 2011, and he was like 15 or 16 talking about this stuff. He knew for a long time that he had problems, and yet he just kind of goes about life being angry and not trying to fix himself. So this whole, he's crazy. Yeah, he's crazy. No doubt. To do what he did is crazy. No question. It's brutal. It's evil. It's sick. And, he just, he did not do what he needed to do to try and better himself. And once again, I get it. Like, this whole alleged and, innocent until proven guilty, whatever. I know, I get it. But I mean, that affidavit is damning bad. And they got more. I'm sure of it, because all they were trying to do was just get him behind bars.
Yeah. He's gonna it'll emerge that you know what his weird encounters were, and he knew as a young person that he was going down a place that he didn't quite understand. He may have, I'm not a doctor, and I
I'm
don't
not a
play one on
pilot.
YouTube, and I'm not a pilot either. I don't play one on YouTube, but I do own a simulator, and I could up my resume if I needed to.
Well,
No,
like I said,
I
I'm a
don't own a
profiler.
simulator either, but
I, I'm
I'm
a
sure many
profiler. I
people,
made a profile
I'm
pizza.
sure many people do.
Yeah.
And anyway, with this guy, with Nothing Burger, I took that from one of your chats here.
That's all right. Hey, they appreciate it.
What's going to be interesting for me, I'm really interested and curious about what's going to emerge with his encounters with women, because I'm of the belief that this guy has, a lot of fetishes underneath the surface here, and that he was, potentially engaged in those for quite some time over periods of years, up to the point where the targets here, the girls, and I believe it is the girls. I don't know if there's any one specific. We don't have any information that tells us it was Xana, it was Maddie, it was you know uh, Ethan, not Ethan, but Kaylee. We don't know. It could have been Dylan. It could have been the other girl, BF. I find it interesting that cinder block is underneath Dylan's window, and she survived. That was her original room, right down on the second floor. Okay. And this is kind of like how does that play into this, if anything? But it was obvious from the way the house is designed up there on the hill. It's on a ridge. You can look over. It was dark. It was a lot of camouflage, a lot of cover, and a lot of space for this individual just to kind of hang around and creep. So you'd want to start looking for, as a law enforcement agency. And this is why I thought that one caper with the girl, but it seemed like it was a little bit earlier. The gal who found her undergarments in the coffee, excuse me, in the center console, right? Her underwear. And they just kind of played it off like, well, oh, wow, that's weird. Well, yeah, that's really weird, especially in that environment. In fact, that goes past the weird category into the, hey, you got something going on category over here. Okay. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it plays right into the way this guy is processing. And so those types of behaviors, this guy's going to have in his past, he's going to have, extensive pornography problem. I'm going to put money on it. I'll go with a bingo card for 1,000 on your show.
Ding.
There will be women, not only the ones that have come forward that have said, hey, I kind of dated this guy, and by the way, he played tickling games with me. Statistically, that one, okay. In the research that Gary has done, those games typically lead to bondage and torture. And you know who else played tickly games?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
I've done my best. It's hard, that's real tough.
Yeah, the research has shown, okay, that as a grooming process, that eventually it leads to, problems.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
So
what his Tinder date said, right? That on the first date when he tried to tickle her.
right.
And I'm telling you right now, under knows. And by the way, look, I have been shot down, I have been rejected, and all of it's been very humbling before. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I know I'm an ogre, so on and so forth. It's fine. But I I just kind of assume that most people don't want to be bothered and their space invaded, or not, 99.9% of people, and that you should always probably just keep your hands to yourself, and especially on a first date, like a Tinder date. I mean, it is so prototypical and creepy to do something like that. It's invasive. By the way, tickling somebody is an absolute jerk move, by the way. Like, I'm extremely ticklish, and I don't like when people do it even when they're just joking around. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it. I mean, it's normal behavior in the correct environment.
Yeah, if you're
And
trying to annoy your sister,
right, exactly.
not on a
Or
Tinder date. Yeah, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, oh, if you do that, we're gonna, I remember we would when Peyton, because Peyton likes to like really make me mad. I said, well, I'm just gonna tickle you if you do it.
right.
Um, but yeah,
It's all within
that's
you got to keep the context together, right? And in this context, total stranger, Tinder date, first time, never met this guy. Hey, do you mind if I tickle you? You know, what is this, Saturday Night Live? Get out of here. You know?
well, and another thing, Chris, that I do think that I mean, you have raised sons, and I am raising sons, and I have made it abundantly clear, and they have, because of my past and just general awareness of situations. And they have, they're young, and they have girlfriends and things like that. But I said, I always tell them, if a girl wants to break up with you for any reason whatsoever, doesn't even have to be a reason. There doesn't have to be a reason. That's her right. That's her prerogative, and you respect it. And I know it'll hurt, and I know that it will bother you, and you'll question yourself, and it's all part of life. You get your heart broken. Somebody doesn't reciprocate the feelings that you have. It happens to everybody at some point. You have no right to touch anybody in a violent way, a sexual way, that is telling you no. You don't stalk people on online. You don't over and over and over text them. You don't call them 100 times. You don't do any of that. And I have made it more than clear, and I think more men need to teach their sons to keep their hands to themselves. And if a woman wants to break up with you, she doesn't have to have a reason to do it. If she wants to. And I know it sucks, and trust me, I've been dumped and everything like that. But you know, I don't know if
It's
that's
called
taught.
respect. No,
What's that?
I don't either. Yeah, it's called respect and boundaries. You know, boundaries.
Big
And
time.
but it's all self-control for the guy and for the gal. But 90% of it is, if not 99, is men. It's driven by men. So, the fact that this occurs in the dark, it's ego here that's at play. And I'm not seeing a whole bunch of overt, um, sexual quality to this. So that means it's going to move more towards grudge and resentment and an envy or a hatred towards women.
Right.
That's, rejection. This individual, I mean, think about it. This guy's having his dad knocking on the doors. I mean, just do the math on this for a moment, shall we? As an experiment. You're 28 years old and your dad rings the doorbell of your neighbor and says, "Hi, my name is blah, 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 and this is my son." Would you be friends with him? Would you do that for me or for him? Would you do that? Okay. And now you go to this idea of the first time meeting the guy. Can you imagine wouldn't you be embarrassed if your dad came over and said, "Hey, just to let you know, son, I knocked on all the neighbors' doors and I just let them know that they're going to be your friends. And just give you a heads up."
Yeah, first of all, I'd be embarrassed if anybody asked anybody besides me, you know, like, "Hey, will you be that person's friend?" I would. And second of all, if somebody asked me to do that, I would lock my door and black out my windows, and then I would move.
Well,
No, thank you.
yeah, I mean, if our dads did that,
Oh
I'd
my
be
god,
like, "Oh my gosh, what? You did what?"
it's
Yeah,
just so.
well, you need friends. No, I'm good, Dad. It's cool.
I got
And
my
then
computer.
I'd go around. Uh, I'd go around, hang on for a minute. Karen's gonna walk by behind me.
Got it.
Go.
And boom. Beautiful. Do you remember that time we were doing a live and she was crawling on the floor?
It was hysterical between
And
her
you
and
were
Buddy.
like this
And I'm looking
all
at her and going, "Honey, what are you doing?"
you're pointing
She's
down.
like, don't let her know we're doing this. And it was her birthday the other day, by the way. She's 21 and she looks as gorgeous inside as ever. And the
That
outside's a
was
bonus.
Linda's birthday the other day too. She was 23, which is weird. She's like a couple years older than Karen.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Yeah. It's that
Great.
anti-aging serum or whatever that their Brad Pitt uses. Something like that. But
Yeah.
happy birthday, Karen, 21 forever.
Yep.
Wow. Good.
And when I gotta turn this off when she comes back, so remind me.
Okay, well, here.
Because if she walks,
When I see the door crack, I'll just
we'll make
ah.
$10,000. We'll leave it on for funniest home videos.
She's gonna roll across the
Yeah, she
So
will.
Chris, there's a question there. Do people like No Burger usually hate their moms?
Yes.
If they don't like women at
Yeah.
all.
And what's interesting is we were thinking that he probably fantasized about killing his instructor, his professor.
Probably, yeah. He probably did. He doesn't strike me as the kind to make friends really easy. Um, but like, what do you make of this whole 6 months until I mean, it's not even the trial. It's the preliminary hearing.
Yeah, it means you have a very large mound of problems.
Yeah, he's willing to sit in there for 6 months just to fight the preliminary hearing. And that should tell you a lot. Because he does have the right to a speedy trial. They all do. Just like this Ann Walsh and her husband, Brian Walsh, who, by the way, was charged with murder today out of Connecticut. And they still have not found this mother of three. The children are now in state's custody. And he's charged with murdering his wife. They found blood in the basement, a broken knife. He was Googling how to dispose of a 115-pound body. How long does it take for a body to stop stinking? So on. This is him on the internet doing this, Chris. And you're going like, then they find trash bags across the street from his mother's house with a hacksaw, like bloody towels, so on and so forth. And once again, we're looking at a man who probably was out of his league, and she probably knew it and wanted to leave. It's how it always happens. We've seen this time immemorial, Chris. It's been going on forever. It happened with my mother. It absolutely happened with her, and it happened with Maya Miliete. I believe that it happened to Dee Warner. I believe Suzanne Morphew. And what is the one common thing? Money and greed, jealousy. It's all at the center of everything. Some and sometimes when you combine all of those together, it's just a disaster. And now these little kids, one of the things that is horrific is usually when stuff like when tragic events like this happen, most kids go to the surviving parents or grandparents, and these kids, the dad's an only child, which makes sense because he's a jerk off, and then and it also makes sense that he never got the crap beat out of him probably by siblings. I think that actually helps growing up, having to kind of deal with other people, other kids in the house. I'm not saying like physically, but you know what I mean. But her family lives overseas. Like she's and so these three kids, 2, 4, and 6, I believe, are now in state's custody. He took them for smoothies after she disappeared. He's like, I'm the guy went out and bought $450 worth of cleaning products. They have them on film. I mean, and this is a slant, that's another, but they charged him today. So here's the thing about that. And back to the speedy trial part. They started the clock. Okay. So they originally arrested him for lying to investigators. Let's just get him in custody. Let's get him out of the way so he's not interfering. So on and so forth. And then, now, I mean, he's just ruined, but he has a right to a speedy trial as well. And none of these guys want a speedy trial because I think that, they know what's coming. Do you kind of get that sense from, what is it? Toberger? Is that his last name? Hamburger.
Mhm.
Do you kind of get the feeling that they need this time because they have an awful lot to deal with?
Yeah, I think it's a defense move, which is, remember, we talked about this a long time ago, even with Barry Morphew, with Barry Morphew.
Hate him.
I said they're going to put Suzanne on trial. And lo and behold, they did. And of course, he wasn't the guy. Some other dude did it. And now he wants all his stuff back. He wants his, evidence so he can destroy whatever else existed, if it existed. And, Cowburger here, Blowburger, as Marissa says, he's gonna play the same game. He's gonna run it up the flagpole as long as he can. And at some point, you're already starting to see the talking heads. I find it's ironic that the people in some of the most high-profile cases, I look at Marcia from the OJ trial, the prosecutor. Remember, she came out of the woodwork recently on a show.
Yep.
Here's a question, right? Didn't she lose?
Big time.
Yeah, didn't she lose the trial?
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's obviously an authority that you want to be weighing in on.
To be fair, maybe the fix was in. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you would think when the DNA is 1 in 9 billion that you're gonna have a pretty good chance.
Right. And so he's going to argue, you know, all kinds of stuff. But one of the questions that keeps coming up is, is this the first time for him?
Yes,
And,
I would just guess.
yeah, for me, the answer is yes. I don't believe he's killed before. And so
I don't think so either. But I mean, I could see why people would, think that that's possible. But a lot of this, and I'm not a profiler, so correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of this is is kind of leading, like it's evolving behavior. So you start kind of, first of all, you just treat people like crap. You disassociate yourself. People try to coddle you because you're weird, and that's what you want to. Oh, my little boy is this. And trust me. By the way, there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of problems, and that parents desperately try to fix. And sometimes you can, and sometimes it just doesn't go so well. Okay, but the behavior becomes more erratic as they get older and more, you know, it probably in his mind he had reached, there's just, he's peak, you know, physical fitness now. He used to be a fatty because he ate, hamburgers, and I'm sure he would have probably been more happy if he'd have just stayed fat. But you can only eat Brussels sprouts for so long, and that coupled with just being an insane human, I think that it's more of one of those things where it's just it's a gradual thing. But like I said, I'm not a profiler.
we're all human beings. And I think it's really interesting that if this young man, at a young age, was picked on and abused because of his weight problem, there's no excuse for that. And that kind of bullying, even back in the day, is very traumatic for children because it's traumatic for adults as well, even today, for people. And so the human condition is one of, survival. And so they go into this cocoon of personality traits where they oppress what is reality. And he talked about it in his writings about Oblivion. He talks about it very clearly where, he's void of feeling, he's void of understanding, he separated himself from his family. And, where he talks about when I left, the last holiday and I hugged everybody, it was empty. It was almost as if he was looking, through the lenses of darkness in the world. Now, some of that, obviously, not being a doctor in any way, shape, or form,
Or a pilot or a profiler.
or a profiler or a pilot. Okay? However, some of that, as he's projecting it into the world at a young age, what he's really projecting is, I need help. And I don't know how to deal with this. And so this anxiety comes over the human condition and they start to spin. And what ends up happening is they get to a place where it's almost like, and I've talked to a lot of victims, mostly rape victims, who just, women who have been held for long periods of time and raped for just horrifically for days.
Right.
And they get to a place where it's like, I just need to disassociate myself from this. And so they literally they encapsulize, the environments around them into this place of non-existence, but it's a reality that's occurring to them. Somebody is abusing them violently. Rape is a very violent crime.
I mean, it to me, I put it right there with murder. I mean, it kills the soul. I know. I
It
mean,
does. Yeah, it does.
that's almost impossible to fix.
And so, and I'm not making excuses for this guy because what he's done, there is no excuse for it. Right.
No.
Because you can get to a place where it's like, okay, I'm out, I'm 18, I got to go fishing. And then they have to figure out what that means, and you've got to be there as a parent. The success of a parent is not the success of their children. It's the success of their grandchildren. How your grandchildren are your successes, because that means you did something right in between that environment. Okay. And the way your grandkids evolve is really a reflection of how you are as a parent. Okay. And so this guy, it sounds like he has never been able to be on his own because his dad, his mom, or whoever, and this is just a it's a presumption here, but it looks like it's a problem based on the dad ringing the doorbells and trying to make friends for the kid. They never let the child grow up, make mistakes, dust them off, hold them accountable, forgive them, love them, and move them forward. Instead, they stopped parenting. And, I was talking to a father the other day. I'm not going to name anybody. He asked me, he says, how's your son? Yada, yada. I said, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how's your boy? And I was talking to him a little bit. And I said to him, I said, what do you like to do? He's 15. He goes, Minecraft. I said, okay, well, what are you good at? He goes, Minecraft. It's like, he's stuck in this cocoon of bits and bytes. But there's a real world out there. And maybe this kid got caught up in that piece of that problem. I don't know, but it got to a place where he started to fantasize, what it feel like, what would it feel like ideas. And he started transferring that anger and that aggression towards people and things around him. And this is where I continue to go back to the emergence of information that's going to provide itself at some point where we're going to see behaviors up to the days of the homicides where women are going to be coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, I need to tell you about A, B, C, and D. Just
they
like
probably have that waiting, right? I mean,
I'm
I
sure
bet you they
interviewed.
have witnesses that aren't taught, because I've already read some stuff like from middle school, which, by the way, that's what I'm saying. This is an evolution. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah,
No, you're
they
fine.
got to have them waiting in the wings, man.
Oh, they're lining up if they haven't already interviewed them.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
There's no empathy.
that's going to go directly to his lunacy behavior towards people, Mr. Tickle Monster. You know, like I said, we all know we all know another Tickle Monster.
Idiot.
There's a lot of research out there. Obviously, the front lobe of brain injuries and that kind of stuff towards how does that affect sociopaths and psychopaths. Is it there? And there's a lot of brain scans, I'm sure, but at the same time, you know, we didn't have the generations. My generation didn't have a lot of kids walking into schools and shooting people. And they all had a rifle in their rifle rack. You know, most of them had 22s on school property.
Right.
So something happened. What happened? Where did it go? What happened? And I think, you know, our society today, and you and I are two perfect examples of what I mean by that is you and I had never met before up until YouTube, and then we started chit-chatting, and I got to know you. I learned about your life and, you know, your experiences with your mom and with your family and what you still go through, you know, and you learned a little bit about me. And that's the art of communication. The art of communication is what solves murders, not technology. And I've said this 1,000 times. And it's ironic that, you know, this platform, this environment called YouTube or Instagram or, you know, Twitter, everything's about the moment. Instagram, okay, YouTube, okay, Twitter, quickly, right? The bird, get that information out there. Okay. Well, we haven't slowed down as a society. We're always running 24/7, 365 at 150 miles an hour. Well, eventually you're going to hit the wall. You know, you can't run a car at 200 miles an hour without at some point somebody being on the freeway with you trying to get there and not having the skills to drive. And these are the people that are colliding with society. And their collisions with society are dangerous. I mean, because anybody can pretend in any way, shape, or form in these environments, and they can hide. And so these sociopaths are hiding behind this anonymity. You know, it's like, you know, you can't see me. I'm Brian. You know, I'm Brian Hamburger. I'm over here, but because my real name is Papa Rogers, I'm Papa Rogers. Okay, you see, and that's what's dangerous. And until we kind of figure out how to, you know, look at our neighbor and say, how's your day? How are you doing? Good. Not about how am I doing? How are you doing? I love the term selfie. Really? You know, we're creating a society of narcissistic personalities that have no feeling towards anybody else other than the camera. And it's dangerous. These poor girls are victims of potentially somebody saying, well, I don't get to be part of that world, so I'm taking you out of it. And that, I think, is how this guy is going to evolve as we go down the lane. I think people are going to be surprised, and it's just my opinion. People are going to be really surprised that, you know what, this guy really wasn't Ted Bundy. This guy really wasn't BTK. This guy was, you know, just Brian Kohlberger, weirdo, okay, who evolved into killer.
Turd burger.
Kohlberger or Hamburger, whatever his name is. Okay. And that will be the revelation where everybody, I'll guarantee you the defense is going to paint him as the victim. They're going to paint him as the victim. You heard it first on the lab.
Absolutely, they are.
You know?
I mean, that's what. So my grandparents, I've told this story before. It was going to go to trial about with my mom, which it was a pretty open and shut case, but they were going to say that he was provoked into violence because of jealousy, and that she didn't want to be in the marriage anymore, and none of that was true. Taunted him, and basically the taunts were, I'm leaving and I'm taking the kids and we're moving, because I told you 3 days before she was killed we were moving to Seattle, and it was supposed to be a secret, and obviously I don't know how or why he found out. But by the way, folks, if you are in that situation, please, get help immediately,
Get
but
out.
do not tell them you're leaving. Don't do it. Have a plan, have a friend that can help you to get out of there, because that was it, you know. Um, I feel, like I said, I feel that way with D. I feel that way with Maya Miliete, Susan Morphew, all those wonderful, wonderful people that were stripped of their lives
And
because
y- I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was done.
We can't even get along as in society. Not, and this is more so in the U.S. than in other places. And some places are doing it great, but in society, we can't even. We're so polarized, and that polarization does flip into other things, into criminal activity. And it's a measurement. It's a measurement of what society. If you want to see how your society functions, okay, watch how adults are treating children. If you really want to see, years ago there was a study called Gangs 2000, and the Attorney General in the state of California years ago, the court system was trying to figure out what we do with children who are becoming younger and younger as offenders. I'm going to fast forward through the story, but back in the day, if you were the age of 12, the courts looked at you and said, well, you're not able to form specific intent, so therefore you cannot commit a crime. Our society and the courts will not recognize that you have committed a crime because you're 12 years old. Okay. Now measure that to 2022. And this was the early 90s. You just had a 6-year-old shoot a teacher.
Yep.
In class.
Yep. And it wasn't an accident. That's what the police.
Here's a call coming in for America. You say whatever people can say whatever they want, think whatever they want. That's what makes America great. But our children are being served up to criminal behavior. And you don't pick up a gun as a 6-year-old without knowing more or being exposed to much more. And we're starting to figure out that this is a problem. And I had a conversation with my son recently because he was talking about it, Dylan. And I said, son, let me ask you a question. He goes, what's that, Dad? I said, how do you get 1/3 of a country to kill 3/4 of their country? He goes, I don't know. I said, read about 1939 and you'll learn something. And then look to see if there's a polarization in our society that is equal to that. 52 million people were killed in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
because everybody got together and started killing each other. Well, that doesn't happen by accident. And if you look at the societies that were breaking down around that predisposition to push, other people into prisons and walls, and just because they didn't like them. There is a lot going on in the world that there's a lot of enabling going on. And I think with Brian, we're going to learn that there was a lot of enabling going on. And I think his dad is just the tip of the iceberg by just the friends concept. And when we look back, everybody's going to go, you know what? That guy was weird. He did bump into me in the hallway when I was in high school and then kind of stop there and laugh at me because he started to lose weight and he started to, fight back, little revenge. And I think that grudge, that revenge is unfortunately was taken out on these poor children or these poor young adults. And I think that's going to be the big story for me anyway, at the end of it. At the end of it. When we condone taking the line out of the middle of the road, don't complain when there's two cars that collide.
Right. Right. No, I completely understand what you're saying. This whole everything you used to have to kind of earn sort of every little pleasure in life, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, if you wanted to catch the 6 o'clock news in the day, you had to sit down and watch the 6 o'clock news at 6. You don't have to do that anymore. You can go about your day and you can catch it another time on your phone, on YouTube, on like it is to me, the things that were taught far like and this is just it's not a trigger warning, but I'm gonna just talk about it because it's important. As you were talking about the pornography aspect of it, when I was a kid, we didn't have cell phones in our pockets. Okay, I'm 37. We didn't have cell phones in our pockets. If there was a nudie magazine floating around school, it was a magazine like a Playboy. Okay, and that was like impossible to get your hands on. Somebody'd have to take it from their parents' house. And then, so on and so forth. Even that kind of pornography is nothing compared to today. And it's in your hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you want it. Now, by the way, and I want to say this, it kills the gray matter in your brain. It overstimulates you. It's terrible for your mind. It really, truly is. It destroys the brain. And it is so terrible. The access to violent movies. And by the way, I'm not advocating that people cannot watch violent movies. Look, I get it. It's all about if you, like my kids, they were not allowed to play, Grand Theft Auto and things like that. It just wasn't going to happen. I don't care if it was animated or not. It didn't matter. It was not for a child. And probably really not for adults either. Some countries have banned the video game because of the negative influence that it's had. But you know what I'm saying is just like everything has gotten worse and worse and worse. The way people talk to each other now, I was there was some old video that I was watching the other day, and these people were arguing. They were enemies. And they said, I completely reject your hypothesis, but I respect your right to say it. But sir, you frankly are not as smart as you think you are. And everybody's like, oh my gosh. And now it's like, you know, Don Wells, you know, prison talk, craziness. And everything is so far skewed. And I don't know how the needle moves like that. I just know that it has. I've watched it. I've seen it. I've grown up in a time where we are nothing more than just technology has really advanced in a way that is just not been it's been beneficial in a lot of ways, like the information, uh, you know, you have instant access to information, good information, but you also have it to bad information. And you also I mean, you're basically putting pornography and violence in your kids' pockets if it's not regulated. And you can regulate it. You just have to want to be able to spend the time to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me give you a simple example, right? To dovetail into your thought. Okay. This right here, right, is a very powerful tool. And it's a tool. Okay. It's not an existence. It's a tool. Do you realize for the first time in moral compasses, whenever man figured out what a moral compass was, whether it's in your mosque, whether it's in your synagogue, whether it's in your chapel, whether it's in your, environment in the middle of nowhere, and you're connecting with your higher deity for you as an individual, or if you're, in the middle of your temple somewhere in Asia. Do you realize for the first time in world history, okay, that evil can come to your meetings in everybody's pocket? And it's only the moral compass of the individual who holds the window. And I gave this conversation, I did this conversation with a bunch of youth recently, where I said there are two windows in our lives: the windows attached to the building and the windows we bring into the building. I said, if you feel that we need to create this ground as a safe place up here, then it has to be safe right here. That's my son. It has to be safe. Now, the problem is, for me anyway, the way I think is I've watched people, myself included, evolve into thinking in bits and pieces. We're not thinking in full we're not thinking collectively. Now, today, what I mean by that, it's everybody thinks in multitasking like this. Okay? And they lose course of what they're doing. And you know where you see it first? You see it in driving. I was talking to officers recently, and I said, "Where are you seeing the most uncivility?" You know where they said? The roads. Now, those roads are a reflection of this, which goes to their house, which turns into multiple environments within a home. Not one environment. A home used to be a family environment. And it doesn't matter what the makeup of your family is. It was a place of refuge from the vicissitudes and the turmoils of the world. It was a place of refuge. Today, that refuge has multiple rooms in it and windows. And you see the sons do this. You see your daughters do this. Me too. We see our grandkids do this. And there's a disconnect. Right? Because it becomes a reality that isn't real. As I used to say, Facebook has two faces. And I still believe that. Because I know that. Go ahead.
Keep going.
No, because we live three lives. And I've taught this many times. You and I have been here for a while, quite some time. Our public life, our private life, and our secret life. And when I first said that a long time ago, people were like, yeah, right, sure. Okay. Now, but when you start looking at murderers, it comes to you pretty quickly. You know, this guy just cut his wife up. He's living a secret life. Okay. At least for a little while.
Yeah, typically it kind of bleeds into real life, but if you're that deranged.
Right. And now we have a whole we've got years of this going now, since 93 anyway. That's when everybody says, what's this new DOS thing? Go watch the old commercial news stations about when the internet hit the environment. Okay. Go watch the old the commercials about the news and how they reported it back in 93. It's hysterical. And some of it's still on YouTube. They were like, so what exactly do we have to do? Well, there's this thing called DOS, and you got to put in, these X's and these hash marks, and then you got to write a couple words. Okay. Well, this thing can put you on the moon. It's got more technology than the Apollo 11 right here in our hands.
It's funny that you say that, because if you read the terms of agreement with your iPhone, do you know it says you have to agree not to use it to detonate nuclear weapons? Like that's in there.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Because you can.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
I wouldn't know how,
right.
But, but yeah, they make it. That's part of the, nobody reads
and
it. I read it. It was, I don't know.
And
why.
look at the irony of this, where the next phase of this is AI and artificial intelligence. And this is why we are starting to study, the groups that I'm with, the metaverse. We're starting to study the next evolution of this, and now process that. Fast forward to Brian Hamburger here.
Rhinoceros.
Hit that again. That is hysterical.
Rhinoceros.
Exactly. Think about this, right? Think about this.
Suckamuckagus.
Exactly. What if he had access to the metaverse, which he didn't have it yet? But what if he did? Or let's think about the next one. Who's going to do? Somebody else is going to do this in another horrific tragedy coming, unfortunately, in this country.
You think like a copycat?
Well, I don't know of a copycat, but people.
It's just going to happen. It happens. Every time you turn on the TV, it's like family of 5 killed or something.
Right.
I mean, and without being insensitive to it, it's just the truth. I mean,
8 people shot on Martin Luther King Day at a park.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Right?
A University of Alabama, I believe. Did you hear about this? The starter for the basketball team. Him and his friend were at a restaurant. His friend was making advances towards the girl. She was with her boyfriend, her husband, and child. She turned him down the street. They shot into her car, and she died. They were both just arrested for capital murder.
Yeah, horrendous.
Like, for what? Because she didn't want to talk to him. She obviously had good reason. That story blew my mind. She was 23 years old, same age as my mother. And that little kid is like 2 years old. because of why he got rejected and it hurt his ego. So his response, so the basketball player hands a loaded pistol to the guy who's enraged. Immediately he fires into the car.
That's bits and bytes, because it's an emotional response without an ability to control impulse. And this is why when somebody says I'm multitasking, my family knows and you see it in the way I present on YouTube, unfortunately, because it's just how I am. I'm wired this way now, and I have been. I'm single tasked. I want to explain the event, and and I miss a lot of the comments and stuff, but fortunately I love the TIR family, and they love us, and they're patient with me because they know if I'll catch it, and hopefully I'll throw it up and I'll come back and answer the questions. But if you look at just even, how we do things here on these platforms, right? Somebody puts something up and immediately, it's self-gratification. You got to hit it right there. Boom, hit it. Okay. Or else you'll get, hey, you didn't A, B, C, or D. Okay. And I mean, think about that. If you walked into the cafeteria and say, everybody, I'm here, so shut up, I'm coming in. Okay. Then, oh my gosh, everybody in the cafeteria turn around and look and like, who's that guy? How'd they get here? Okay. But the Bryans of the world, the pilots of the world, the Bretts of the world, okay, those people they feel like they have this ability to kind of fire off because their opinion counts. Okay. Well, I don't know. My opinion doesn't count. It does sometimes, but they're a lot smarter people than me. And I try to pay attention to them. Doesn't mean I always do. But this thing right here, if, when Dylan was a young man, actually, I'll use my older son. I won't tell you his name, not publicly. He was listening to some inappropriate music that I wasn't going with. And he had a whole bunch of CDs that he bought without telling me.
Yeah, been there.
And I went into his room and I found all these CDs and he had them hidden.
Yeah.
And I brought them and I put them out on the dining room table. And he tells his story even to this day. This
happened. This exact thing that you're saying right now. I don't know where the story's going, but it happened to me too.
Yeah. This is the doctor.
Meaning they took my CDs.
My son's a doctor. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not.
All right. Anyway, sitting on the table, he comes home right from high school and he's like, uh-oh, busted. And I said, hey, how much you spend on this? Right. And he told me. And I said, okay. So, well, why don't you grab it? Let's go. He says, where are we going, Dad? He says, we're going to go for a ride. Okay. We went down the 5, got up on the Coronado Bridge, rolled down the window. He did on his side. And I said, toss it, boy. He goes, what? I said, throw it. He goes, Dad. He said, I can't. I said, you can. You're gonna do it, or I'm gonna stop right here in the middle of the bridge. Anyway, he threw it, right? And I looked at him. I said, it's okay that you bought it. It's not okay that you lied to me about it.
There you go.
Okay, so that's the consequence.
Hey,
there's a responsibility there.
Absolutely, and like I had been there too. Like that happened. It was Warren G Regulators, the single on a disc or it was a tape. The instrumental was on one side and the actual song was on the other. And I left it on top of my grandma's Gaither albums. And she put it in and played it one day. And, they say regulators. And then it starts, and she's like, obviously she's horrified. Oh my gosh, Josh Daniel. Yup. I wasn't there at the time, but it was like, oh man, she was so mad that I put that on top of Bill and Gloria Gaither's album. And it was just like, it's not even about, it wasn't even, now, once again, compared to today, it was like nothing.
Oh yeah.
But she goes, "Where'd you get this?" FYI, which, is for your entertainment. You know that you're not like supposed to have, because I was like, I don't know, 12, and it said, explicit content or whatever it said on it, because there was some cussing in it. And she's like, "You're not allowed to have these." Why? And she goes, "I don't even know how you were allowed to buy it. Like, aren't they supposed to?" I said, they don't care. They just want to sell it, And my grandpa, the same thing. "You lied to me. You lied to us. What'd you?" Because I came home, they said, "What'd you get?" I said, "Nothing." "What'd you get?" Because I was at the mall. What'd you get?" "Nothing. Just a cookie." And then I had the tape in my back pocket. I was so excited, and I got to listen to it for a couple days, and then Bill and Gloria Gaither told on me.
Exactly.
I grew up with some old folks, man. I'm telling you, we watch Red
We're not
Skeleton.
too old. I mean, you just don't let the old man in. We're not too old.
Chris,
Right now.
I just watched Matlock earlier, and I love it. Like, I love all that kind of stuff. But because I
Don't
was raised,
underestimate the 60s.
I
Guys in their
hated it growing up, and now I'm like, oh, Don Knotts is on. He's like my favorite. Or,
Do you realize a guy in his 70s just won the World Series?
Dusty Baker,
Bingo.
one of my favorites.
Don't underestimate age and wisdom.
Yeah.
Back in our time, our parents taught us, go listen to those who have lived and learn from that. And today, I don't know if that occurs much anymore. I think it does in a lot of good kids. There's tens of millions of thousands of them out there. But there's also this other side of it, that we're losing a generation to individualism. They're individuals, and they're not having the ability to understand what their fellow man is all about. It's not always their fault, though. A lot of it is nobody told them no. I had apps on my son's phone, Dylan's phone, because he's our youngest, that at a certain time, that phone went off, man. It just boom, it just disappeared. And he's like, "Dad," he said, "can I have like another hour?" No. You've had like 3, 4, 5 hours, and time to do your homework. Get it. And that's, unfortunately, I attribute that to my dad and my mom, as you and I have being good friends. No, my dad, I shared that story. I share that story with people all the time. On every Saturday, I had to clean a shed.
Yeah.
And
that was already clean, right?
Yeah. It was like, here I go again. But it was like 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. It was 15 or 20 minutes. It wasn't an all day thing. And at the end of it, because a lot of times I didn't have to do much, at the end of it, I always heard my dad tell me, "Good job, son. Keep going." And then he would turn to those doggone bricks. He had 6 bricks. And he goes, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" And that's how he would deliver it. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I heard that, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" Okay. And I'd say, in my head, I know, well, where's he going to have me move them? And he goes, "Hey, can you put those over there for me, pal?" That's exactly how he would do it. Okay. And I'd move all 6 bricks and line them up. Okay. And I can tell you, when I was in the police academy, and my TAC officer was a guy named Frank Bruckner. He was an infantry Marine in Vietnam. And then he became a cop. And he was a captain in the Marine Corps in Vietnam. And just before a run one day, he walked out, he looks down, and this is before we had to go change into our PT clothes. And he looks down at my shoes and he looks at me, he goes, "McDonough?" And I said, "Sir, yes, sir." He said, "Would you shine those shoes with a Hershey bar today?" I was like, okay, I'm listening to my dad here. So I got, just shut up. Don't say anything. And he goes, "Maybe, did you hear me?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Did you shine those shoes with a Hershey bar today?" I said, "Sir, no, sir." He says, "Yes, you did. Now go get changed in your tennis shoes. Get out of here." Right. And oh my gosh, I heard my dad's voice. I can't tell you how many times in those parts of life. And I don't know, what that means, but yeah, Callie, now you know where I get it. Exactly. Two Marines. My mom was a Marine. So was my father. So I was blessed.
Who cut that? Who cut your hair as a kid?
My mom.
Called it.
Yeah. And it was called an RBH.
She put a bowl on your head?
No, you know what an RBH is?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, rats, younger rats. What's an RBH? We're going to see all the military rats are going to know right off the bat.
Yeah, probably.
They will.
RBH.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'll tell you when it pops up here. We love you guys. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button over here, please do that. We got to get Josh past 15,000, please.
Oh, appreciate
it. Get him to 100,000.
One day.
RBH.
Is that a buzz?
Yeah. It is a buzz. It is definitely a buzz. Let's see here. Helmet Faith. Almost.
Helmet.
Almost.
Regulation bowl haircut.
That's it. Yeah, it's a regular boy's haircut. Yeah. Regular bowl haircut, but that was it. Yeah, razor buzz head, essentially. Yeah, it was. He'd sit down and say, "Get your RBH." Mom would break out the zippers and just, and that was the name of that tune.
Right. That's funny. I knew there was a bowl involved though, because my grandpa used to say,
regular boy's haircut, RBH.
My grandpa used to always say, that was his thing. Every 2 weeks we got a haircut. Matter of fact, I just got my haircut today because I fell in love with getting haircuts.
Yeah, it looks good. A little Belucci.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I had it in a bun earlier, but I didn't want to be made fun of by you. So I just put a hat on. But but yeah, he would say, I'd be like, I don't want to go get my haircut today. It's like, okay, well then I'm going to cut it tomorrow with a bowl.
Rhinoceros.
Yeah. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Look, I was raised by an army man too. But he was actually extremely gentle and kind and very, totally antithesis of what a drill sergeant was. And he had been a drill sergeant and things like that. But I think a lot of that probably came with understanding the situation of, me and my sister were somewhat delicate.
Okay. Can we talk about this man bun thing? Seeing how you brought it up.
Sure. You can do whatever you want.
What the heck, over?
Man, let me see.
Come on.
Well,
just do it. Do it.
Like what? Cut it?
No. What is it?
What man bun?
No, I know what it is, but what is it?
Why do I have one?
Yeah. What is it with you guys? Your generation?
Let's see. So I'm 37 years old. Okay. Now you got to understand. And most people that I went to school with are bald and they, are old and they look 50.
Don't panic. Man buns rock. I love you.
They certainly do. But I just like long hair. Don't care.
I get that part of it. Long hair is cool. That's cool. I get it.
You put it in a bun because it gets long. It's in the way sometimes.
Yeah, but I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. We all had long hair, but I I don't get the man bun side of this thing.
Well, you put it up in a bun because it's just a style. But like my hair is pretty long, Chris. And
Uh,
like so sometimes like right now, like look at that. Look at that flow. Okay. It's the one thing that God blessed me with. Hair on my head.
To look like John Belushi?
No, that's a fat joke. And no.
No, it wasn't, but go ahead. I'm listening.
The samurai, what is it? He's the
Yeah, samurai chef.
yeah. I don't know. It's just, it's long hair life. That's all it is. Well, yeah, what about ponytails? You like ponytails? I don't do ponytails.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do ponytails
Right.
back in the day. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's kind of interesting that
Like look at the
man buns
lettuce.
things seem to be a thing.
And I have a full beard and the only reason I haven't grown it out just everywhere is because like I like to be like it's kind of like a hidden mullet. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm hiding it right now because I'm high and tight right now, Chris. And then I'm a party animal here. You know what I'm saying? And then if I want to pretend to be a skater, I put in a bun. You
Oh,
know, just like
so it's basically it's multiple personality disorder.
no, I just like doing so. I just like my hair. I don't
I'm
know.
I'm just I
But like
go ahead.
yeah, sometimes I
No,
wear a
I'm
man. That's true.
trying to figure out the man bun thing here. Just seriously.
There's nothing to figure out. All it is oh, I have a wind machine. Check this out. Somebody just said you need a wind machine. You want to see this? Here. You ready for this?
Go. This is hysterical. Here comes the man bun. Here
I'm gonna get
comes the man bun. I'm trying to find a picture when I was a pup. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you, Fabio? It's hysterical. Well, the important part is you're an awesome person, and that's what's important. And the exterior really doesn't matter.
What's wrong with my exterior?
Nothing. You look great. No, that's what I'm saying.
Josh, it's okay that you're ugly.
No, I didn't say that. But I've never been able to figure out what the fascination is with the man bun thing going, the whole.
Well, I don't have a fascination. I just like my hair long, and sometimes I leave it down, and then sometimes I put it up.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. It really does. A lot of musicians though used to do that, right? I mean, they had the long hair thing going, and it was a cool groove. It was a cool groove, and now it's just a lot. There's a lot of it going on out there,
I
which is
look like
cool.
you know who I look like sometimes with the man bun is I look like a overweight Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. You ever see that one?
No, but I guarded him. Did I ever tell you that story? No,
I don't think so.
No. I guarded him for 5 days during the filming of Top Gun. When the first Top Gun. Did I ever share that with you?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Yeah, when I was in special enforcement, I went, undercover vice narcotics, and boss came to us, my partner and I, and he goes, "You guys are going to go, blah blah blah. They're filming a movie," and I was like, "Okay, what are we going to do?" Well, just keep an eye on these guys, make sure nobody bothers them. So I spent literally 5 days with Tom Cruise and Kelly McGinnis, and asked me if they asked me one thing about my partner and I in our lives. Yeah, the answer is no.
Did they ask you? No.
No. They didn't ask us anything. In fact, we hung out, around them. We're supposed to, if something ever happened, intervene. And they didn't even say boo. And I thought, you know what? Man, this guy's stuck on himself for a little bit anyway. I guarded him. Go ahead.
No, I could see that with old Tommy boy.
Yeah, he was an interesting cat. That's
what he
He's
says.
an interesting cat. But
Did you find what you were looking for?
I got so much stuff here. I can't keep up with it anymore.
Well, look, we've been going for a while now, so we should probably pack her in. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time, and thanks for the shout out and being here. I always have a good time when you come on, Chris. And next time I'll have my man bun high and tight.
You're looking good, bud. You stay the course.
You are as well. Thank you.
It makes you who you are, and that's all that counts. So, continue to spread the good in the world. Okay, hit me with the muffler, whatever. What?
Suckamuckagus. Rhinoceros.
Yeah. See you later. Bye. That's classy.
Oh man, that's awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Chris, and everybody that was here tonight. All the people from the TIR that have watched this, that will watch this. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being here. We all appreciate you. Thank you.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
It's not really this to me.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
It's not really this to me. Right, idiot.
I've done my best. It's hard, that's real tough.
But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do for me and my boys and my kids.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
Live from the NBD Production Studios, you're in the lab with your host, Joshua Diaz.
There is no investigation. This boy has.
It's not really this to me. But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys. But I have to.
There is no investigation.
Don't say any F's and stuff.
But I have to put her. But I have to put her on the side and worry about the boys.
Suckamuckagus.
This is now a party.
Rhinoceros.
I think I just broke a tooth.
Rhinoceros.
Don't say any F's and stuff.